right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Monday, August 1st, 2016. And this is Before the First Cup of Jules here on UCY.TV. Happy Monday, everyone. It is 71 degrees and kind of drizzly here in upstate New York, but the rain has been quite a break from the heat for the last couple days, and my grass is getting green again. All right, where do we leave off on Friday? We titled the show Mad Science, Universal Basic Income, and Prey Hunting Robots. We looked at a couple messed up things, and I think we're going to look at more robots today. I am just trying to get back into my groove of things, by the way, and so I have 4 computers, count them 4, with stories open to try and get to today. I don't know. Each of these machines is in a state of disarray. I need to work on getting all my stuff back together again. But let's take a look at what we looked at on Friday. So, prey hunting robots was sent to me by Lady Pitbull, and yeah, there is a robot that they are now teaching to hunt down prey, and eventually it might be humans in the woods. But before we talked about prey hunting robots, we talked about some new artificial intelligences. They are naming them now. There is a Sophia. Sophia's going to help in hospitals, I believe, in diagnosing illnesses as a competitor to Watson. And then there's Nigel. And I think Nigel could be spliced and diced to do just about anything they wanted him to do. I don't really remember what Nigel did. But the point of the matter is that we have artificial intelligences that are getting integrated into our lives. We have the White House who stepped right up and decided that it was going to be a new White House initiative to roll out artificial intelligence. We read that by the CTO, our very first Chief Technology Officer in the United States. We never had one before the Obama administration. And I'm thinking maybe we even lost one in between there somewhere, and then he had a bit of a fit and he stepped down. But I remember when that job went open, and I was like, that would be a good job for me. And then I thought, no, I definitely wouldn't want to be in that hot seat, but I bet it pays well. But we have a CTO, Chief Technology Officer of the United States, who thinks that we should embrace artificial intelligence and robotics. They are holding some events going on now, trying to teach the people and trying to prepare the businesses for the coming of AI, except nobody's listening. You know, one of the things that I was pointing out to my dad this past weekend in discussions, you know, because he's got Fox News on or whatever, so when I'm around, I listen. And you know, we got the candidates here talking about, blah, 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 Middle East, blah, 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 no jobs, blah, 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 you know, trade agreements, blah, blah, blah. One thing that nobody is talking about is stuff that we've been talking about. The coming of robots to take all of the manufacturing jobs to start, all the service jobs, secondly, and all the thinking jobs, thirdly. And this is not a joke. This is happening globally. We have read story after story so far about South Korean manufacturing facilities making armies of robots and sending them to China. And they are displacing the Chinese slaves, making things such as cell phones. We read a story not too long back that had looked at manufacturing and 3D printing and how that was going to put a tailspin on everything that we know and love right now, because anything, but anything, can be just about 3D printed now. It is not going to be too much longer with self-learning, self-educating robots. And we read about some of that, Baxter, where they could pull down knowledge from the cloud. And they act like a big swarm. So one Baxter robot learns, and that knowledge is uploaded to its knowledge base, and they all can get that skill immediately. So you couple that now globally, and I really think we're going to have a big problem. But how are we going to win back jobs when jobs in manufacturing are going to go down to basically raw material cost in an amortized robot skin that breaks out over 5 years or whatever for tax returns. And whatever you're feeding into the machine to 3D prints or whatever, manufacturing is going to be almost instantaneous, and then eventually there won't even be factories anymore. Everybody will get their own 3D printing desktop manufacturing robot, like Eric Drexler talked about. And we'll have our own replicators. We'll literally have our own replicators at home, and I will predict that this isn't just going to be for solid necessaries, to live, but I think also for food. Might be two different replicators, like a food replicator and a thing replicator, but I think it's possible. From everything we've read and we've seen, I think it's very possible that we could be seeing this probably maybe in the next 10 years. I wouldn't say it's no 30 years out from now. Maybe in the next 10 years. So anyway, before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's get back to that Lady Pitbull story. Scientists are teaching robots how to hunt down prey. Might as well start Monday out right. One day this could be a very important skill for robots across the world. And of course, that is if you want to stay employed. It's going to be us against them. This is just insane. Intelligent robots are all well and good, but until they start learning how to hunt prey, that is. And that is exactly what a team of scientists at the Institute of Neuroinformatics at the University of Zurich in Switzerland did. They taught a robot to behave like a predator and to hunt for prey. Or a robot controlled by a human using special software to aid the robot to mark its target and pounce. Now, what's beyond disturbing about this is we have autonomous robots, and I don't know which machine it's on, but I was doing a whole bunch of reading on all the new AI killing machines this weekend. We have lots of robots that they are teaching to hunt quote-unquote suspects. We had the very first case in Dallas this summer of a robot being deployed to thwart a quote-unquote suspect. We have 230-point facial recognition and surveillance 24/7 in our environment so they can bag, tag, and track us wherever we go and whatever we are doing. So now let's add not just autonomous killing drones and things in the sky. We're blowing up families in the Middle East. No, let's add killing, hunting robots on the ground to come hunt us through the woods. Like I said on Friday, I predict that this is going to be something like Boston Dynamics Big Dog or Cheetah. That's what I imagine. And that brand new robot, I don't know if they had a name for that one. It was like a cheetah robot, except it had a giraffe neck and a head. And the mouth opened up and turned doorknobs so it could find its way into a house. Pretty frightening stuff. I know I wouldn't want to run into one of these things in a dark corridor somewhere. Anyway, the applications for these lessons for the predator robot are a lot less terrifying than thinking robots are about to start hunting the human race. Well, it is about creating software that could potentially allow robots to both take a look at their environments and then discern a target in real time. Ding, ding, ding. Shh, we're hiding from the robots. I mean, what is oh, don't worry. It's not going to hunt. It's about finding targets in real time. I mean, how can nobody be concerned about this? This is, for instance, as Toby Delbrook, professor at the Institute of Neuroinformatics, explains, quote, one could imagine future luggage or shopping carts that follow you. Oh, My pet shopping cart. You just tether yourself to it. Ding, it's got your fingerprint. And now it's going to follow you like a little doggy. I don't know about you, but I do not want, what did they call them? Enchanted objects? Is that what we found way back when? These smart objects all around us. I don't want an enchanted shopping cart following me around the store or my luggage. Don't leave without me. You know, someone could put something pretty scary in your luggage and then mark it to follow you everywhere as it explodes. You know, this does not seem like a good idea. It says this allows the software to transcend the label. So we're going to transcend the label of predator and prey. You know, that's just a little too technical and a little too graphic. We don't want people to put negative connotations on these hunting robots. No, let's use another word. So now we're going to reach for the levels of parent and child. Oh, yes. Get the oxytocin flowing, not the fear chemicals. Parent and child. We are going to child you to your shopping cart. Keep all your groceries with you. It'll auto ring it up and take it automatically out of your Qubit account that we give you with your universal basic income. And then maybe it'll even transport itself to your home and put itself away. But the fundamental operating basics are the same. The Predator robot's hardware is actually modeled directly after members of the animal kingdom. And yes, we found out robotics are most successful when they copy Mother Nature. And as the robot uses a special quote-unquote silicon retina that mimics the human's eye, Delbrook is the inventor, and it created as part of a Visualize project. So I guess Delbrook invented it, created, and is that the name of it? I don't know. It's not really clear to me. It allows a robot to track with pixels that detect changes in illumination and transmit information in real time instead of a slower series of frames like regular cameras use. So this is something that we've been talking about, I mentioned quite a number of times, is even though we have AI and even though we can even make live mini brain balls out of brain stem cells, remember we looked at that, and that brain is actually alive. The issue the brain has and a lot of these software applications that they're coming out with now is that there are no sensory inputs. So without sensory input, you don't really have something that is fully aware. But as we add things such as visual processing units, VPUs, now these things can be bringing before my first cup of coffee, bringing them online to be able to interact with the world. And I don't know, silicon retinas, it's not going to be too long before they figure out how to take that visual orbital cortex that makes decisions in the human brain and make a synthetic one that uses a deep learning based on some sort of Kurzweilian invention at Google, and get these things to start making up their own minds. I mean, add a few algorithms here and there, and bang, you got something that mimics already something that's alive. This allows the robot to track with pixels that detect changes in illumination and transmit information in real time instead of a slower series of frames like regular cameras use. This allows for data to be processed by a neural network that helps the robot learn and adapt to the actions it should take the next time it quote-unquote sees something similar. Yeah, something that looks just like Jewel. There, that's the one we want. I mean, how unbelievably frightening. 230 point. They got my facial imprint. And they'll all be out hunting for me. She's loose in this radius. Go get her, Fido. You know, they could be using these instead of little arf tracking dogs. They could have tracking robots. It's a wild world out there, and no doubt robots are going to be a huge part going forward, says the story. And just don't be surprised when you start seeing them taking point on newer operations just like this one in the future. I don't know, guys. I don't know what to tell you about this. Prey hunting robots can't be good. Now, we've looked at DARPA too. DARPA has been releasing autonomous drones all over the floor of the ocean. We've been watching that stuff for the last 3 or 4 years, and the RFP that came out, and then they had this mothership drone that they were looking to build, and they had an RFP out for where they wanted to fill the belly, just like a mommy spider, fill the belly with millions of little mini underwater ocean floor drones, only to be released and deployed when needed in the case of, science or surveillance or attacking things. Don't worry about it, because 90% of the ocean is unexplored, so we are going to make sure that we explore that ocean for military purposes. DARPA-financed drones. Well, hey, we'll make it all better. This one's for you, Jeff. Drones aid new study of whales and dolphins in Hawaiian waters. Yes, we have drones now studying whales and dolphins in Hawaii. Federal researchers returning from a 30-day expedition to study whales and dolphins around the Hawaiian Islands said they are looking for clues to help maintain healthy populations of marine animals. Well, I would say, how about we get rid of that radiation endlessly pouring into the Pacific Ocean? Number one, might help. And number two, how about we turn off all of these naval experiments utilizing sonar that does real damage to the cetaceans? I just saw something that they are discontinuing some tests, but I don't think it's a permanent thing. But anyway, we have drones out there now looking to see how much we are killing the whales and the dolphins. Guys, if you remember 30, maybe 30, I hate to admit 30 years ago, but yes, I think it might have been 30 years ago, Star Trek. I don't remember which one, but there were lots of them. But one of the Star Trek movies where they had to go back in time, come back to current time Earth, and get a whale and bring it back in order to save the planet Earth. I remember thinking to myself, how far-fetched is that? Remember that movie was like one of those wah at the time. But I hate to say it. You know, Gene Roddenberry was quite prophetic. And much of the technology that's come about today, I've read a few stories. Like, everything I know today I learned from Star Trek. But a lot of the technology that's come out today as well has come from people like you and me who grew up watching Star Trek and thought things like the tricorder or the flip phone were pretty cool. And they're making that stuff a reality. I don't think it's too far off the mark, looking at the fact that we are at the 6th great extinction and that man is wantonly damaging, I don't even know, like beyond damaging, completely, utterly destroying all the genies out of the bottle, destroying the planet. It's all about making a quick buck. It's not giving two shits about whether or not your grandchildren are going to have one clean plot of soil to grow an ear of non-genetically modified corn, right? They're not. There's not going to be anything here that is not undefiled. But you know, the way we're going to get around it, because obviously Biology 101 isn't going to do too well in that type of polluted, damaged environment. Well, hey, we're already working on fixing that. We're genetically modifying everything on the planet, and even if you don't know it, it's happening. It's in your food, it's in your air, it's in your water. When you consume these things, it kind of does stuff to you. We don't quite know yet what the end result of doing stuff to you is going to be. But hey, you know what? That keeps making for good patients for us to start working on experimental treatments for other things like, cancer. And we already have all these amazing, miraculous cures that we got all lined up in the pipe to act as a dangling carrot to get all these people to step right up for free research and development that we are getting, that the Obama administration has given us as big pharmaceutical as part of this precision medicine White House initiative. It's amazing. Amazing how all things work out, and don't worry about it, because for the people of the 21st century, this is your only option. Hey, you can't get off this rock. Where are you going to go? We're still a little behind on that. Wink. You don't have any other choice. So the medicine will cure you. Our scientists are smart cookies. And you know what? If you can't find it in the research, well, we'll manufacture something. If it'll make you feel better, Johnny. This is so disturbing to me. And I know I kind of been out and about for the last few weeks playing summer tour guide. I've been recording my shows at 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 6. And now I'm real-time live today, and it's kind of hard. It really is kind of hard because, I used to laugh at all this, but it's not a laughing matter anymore. When they're talking about robots that can hunt prey, you got to sit up and take notice of that. I was at a party this weekend. If any of you guys are listening, hi. I was at a party this weekend, and I don't get out much. The few people in my circles that I know who are used to me, who are used to being exposed to me on a daily basis. But I don't expose myself, not physically. Hypothetically, I don't expose myself to people who haven't been exposed to me in the past, because it's a dangerous thing, especially when you get a few beers in me. You never know what you're going to get. Typically it's a good thing to put me in a room with one of my friends or my dad, feed me a couple beers, and then everything's okay. Everybody's safe. But you get me into an uncontrolled environment where there's new people potentially. And danger can ensue. I can't stop. But I did. I met some interesting people this weekend that I have to say, and this does happen to me sometimes when I meet new people. I'm like, wow, I definitely have to say that I am impressed that there are other human beings out there that we have not yet met who actually get that there's something very wrong going on out there. And they might even have some of the details. Like, I was really impressed that there were details, 9/11 details especially, which made me happy they did not forget. But even beyond that, there are details out there that I wouldn't even have imagined that people who aren't listening to alternative radio would actually be questioning already. Literally looking in the sky and going, what are all those checkerboards? One of these people actually found Dane, if you can believe it. I had to tell him Dane started here on this network. It just makes me happy to know that there are real people out there in the real world, not in this little world here, but I mean people who are still watching mainstream news, interacting with the full-blown regular world and scratching their heads, and not over things as obvious as the election, but over things like, what are they really doing, and what are they putting into our kids, and what are they putting in the sky? And were those really planes that hit the buildings? Yeah, I had a good weekend. It was very very refreshing to me to realize that we are not all lost. And people are so close right now. People are looking for answers. People are saying, "What the fuck is going on?" So you know what, guys? I get to that point, and typically it's this time of year, every year, by the end of the summer, we go full bore all winter long. And up here, it's a long, dark, cold winter. And I push myself a good 6, 8, 9 months straight. I don't take very many days off during that time period because, just with the holidays and that, but that's just because I have a family and I have to be a part of the family unit for a few days a year. But in the summer, I do my motherly duty and we go out and do what my mother did when I was little. Took me out and did all kinds of fun things and made sure that I had a good childhood. And I got to go visit Nana and go places and have all kinds of great experiences. And that's my job in the summertime. But after I've been in this long, dark winter hole for 9 months and I get free, I start to really get down when I look back and go, what the hell am I doing? Why am I even sitting in that dark room, sitting here blabbing my head off about something that no one really cares about? And hey, I hate to tell you, and I hate to be depressing, but I don't see any way out. We talked about this the other day. For all the preps, every single prep that I've made since 1999 and before, in the name of Y2K, I've been thinking about this for a long time. Prepping for every single possibility, just about, in my mind at least. How would I get out of this? And how would I deal with this? I'm one of those planning people. Plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. I always want to make sure I at least got a plan. If not a solid plan, at least a plan in my head. But when I look back at all the scenarios that I thought about over the last 15 plus years, I don't have a plan Z for this one. I don't have a plan Z for nanotech and for the tech takeover of the human body and biological nature on its own. I don't have a plan on how to stop all that. How to stop mad science? We could all say, yeah, big EMP. Yeah, a big asteroid. Well, yeah, I guess an asteroid would fix it all. I'm not sure an EMP would, though. They got all this biologically inspired engineering that they're making with biological components that they've then genetically modified. We read about synthetic DNA and stuff that they're now tooling. So it's actually alive. So it's not even a digital component anymore. So I don't have any more plans. But I got to tell you, when I start getting all down and depressed, and I look at all the stuff that's going on, once I get outside the dark little cubby that I'm in for most of the year, it's very refreshing to me to meet people that have at least found more than an 8-second goldfish attention span to be able to keep asking the questions. And they even know that they got to play it like close cards to the chest because they can't alienate themselves out there because people think you're a tinfoil hat wearing lunatic. Like, it just makes me really excited that maybe we're not so alone. And maybe there are a lot more of us out there. And especially now, as we are in this bizarro world between criminal Clinton and lunatic Trump. And I know, everyone's like, but Trump's the least of two evils, and he is. I find the man amusing. He cracks me up hysterically, some of the shit he says. But I'm going to tell you, he does not give me the warm and fuzzy, full of confidence. Like, if I were running a business and I had to pick someone to, like, be the head of my New York division, it might not be Trump. He'd be getting me sued. He'd be pissing off my best customers. And that's what worries me. And we got all this stuff going on now. The DNC servers now got hacked. Did you see that? And this is a different hack than Hillary's servers and the DNC staffer servers or whatever that first one was. This is now a third hack. And they're all out there screaming, saying it was Trump and it was Russia. And, hey, I don't doubt that Russia may have had some connections with Trump. Just being a businessman, business transcends borders. People do a lot of things for money. A deal is a deal, wink. Money sometimes is thicker than blood if it's enough. Not for me, but, for some people. And this is a very scary world we're living in. And this, I don't know if I have that story up here still. I had a really, really good one that went into all of this new technology. It was pretty scary, though, because it went into all these autonomous weapons and, the real issue with democratizing technology. We've talked about this so many times before, with this CRISPR and 60,000 copies, and we just... not-for-profit spread it all over the globe and send it to any lunatic who wanted it. Yeah, make your own. Make your own life form in daddy's back bedroom. Which is true. That's what they want us to do. But they were talking in the story about how once now you've not only democratized gene editing, but you have all these commercial products that are coming out here in the not too distant future that are laden with smart technology and artificial intelligence. And commercial products are not that difficult to reverse engineer, especially when you got it in your hands. And a lot of these manufacturers, Googles and Apples and whatever, are talking about making a lot of the technology open source because, hey, we don't want the great divide. We don't want the haves and the have-nots. No! We want every single African in the bush that now has Facebook internet through free. Facebook internet drones that we just released everywhere all over the planet doing 5G. Yeah. We want all you guys to be able to model and fashion your own killer autonomous drone. But that's what they were saying. They're like, hey, now that this genie is out of the bottle, and I think in that story they actually use that term, and now that we've democratized all this technology all over the globe, we have lots of smart people, even in the nether reaches of the planet, and we got state and non-state actors, they said. And some of them are pretty nefarious. We got ISIS living in every closet and under every bed. And they got a laptop. Wink. Johnny ISIS is a programmer. They'll be able to build killer technology at a whim. And then add to that 3D printer of the future. Being able to manufacture from a desktop perspective. And our future looks extremely dangerous. Why? Why on earth do we release all this technology to everyone on the planet? To be able to make killing machines at will? Well, I don't know. Maybe we should go back in the time machine and stop them. I mean, whose bright freaking idea was to release CRISPR technology to anyone and everyone who wanted to gene splice anything? Who thought that was a good idea? Why are we publishing, not once but twice, in scientific journals, how to make the bird flu more virulent to kill 95% of the entire human race? Why would we publish that? Not once but twice. Why would we take the killer 1918 flu epidemic and figure out how to make it almost 100%? For wiping out humans, and then publish that in a scientific journal as well. Well, because you know what, people? We're a bunch of psychopaths. You ever have a psychopath in a car with you? Somebody who's an adrenaline junkie? Somebody who, especially when they have a little bit too much to drink, they get really, really like, what was his name in The Shining? It's all Jack Nicholson on you, where he says, "Here's Johnny." Yeah, my uncle was just like that. He actually looked a little like Jack Nicholson in that movie. He was just like that. My uncle, you fucked with him. You better look out. You better not be a pansy, because he will take you to the edge and play chicken. And you know what? He always won. My poor dad had to deal with that. Kenny would show up and get him into a car. I don't know. I think it was like a Corvette or something convertible. Doing 140 miles an hour down the street at 4 a.m. over train tracks. He's going to kill them both. I mean, guys, that's exactly what it's like right now. Why would we give this technology to every lunatic? I mean, literally, we got terrorists under every bed now, according to the mainstream media. So why would we give them all the 21st century killing tools to start tinkering with? You know, this is as dangerous as nuclear material. Nuclear material, you would hope, is under lock and key in most cases, except in places like Libya, where you got yellow cake all over the beach, but don't worry about that. You know, but we have taken all of this new killer 21st century technology and put it into the hands of the very people who are going to do us in with it. Or at least the very people they tell us are going to do us in with it. Might be a good cover for their own mad science. So once it gets out there, they can point to ISIS under somebody's bed in France. Or little Johnny on the internet in Vancouver. I mean, who knows? But I got to tell you, so this is where we've come to. I was reading a story out of Vice, and I know I only take Vice with a grain of salt, but this title caught my attention. Living out of a van is the new American dream. Yes, people. The new American dream in the 21st century is living out of a van. Yay! We've made it. Come on. Living, we've talked about how the American dream is gone. The American dream that our parents and our grandparents strove for is gone. My generation, up until I would say the mid-2000s, would have done as well, if not better, than my parents. But after the last stock crash, which I think was like 2008, I think that was some of the last legs to having a free and open economy where you'd be able to make it even if you weren't anything. I wasn't anything. I was nothing. I had an English degree. Nobody paid for anything. I had no rich and famous parents. I didn't know anybody in business. I just worked hard, learned fast, and figured out how to get my way through industry, how to work my way up the ladder, how to do what I had to do, and I wasn't afraid. You know what? I was kind of cocky about it, but I was smart about it, so it worked. I can't do that anymore. We're literally going to have a caste system. If you are not part of the scientific technocracy where science and technology meet in the future, you're going to be nobody. And if you are not connected and you cannot pass a background check, and they got anything on you going to some divisive website, or they have a recording of you talking about how you don't agree with policies, you are not stock for this caste that we are creating for the future. You do not follow directions, Johnny. You are not one of those non-thinkers that we are looking for with the 8-second attention span. Right? We need somebody who can follow directions, carry out orders for the new plan. Anyway, living out of a van is the new American dream. Chris Trechel and Tamara Murray thought they had the perfect life. They both had successful careers. Trechel was a budget analyst for the city of San Francisco. And Tamara Murray was the president of a PR firm. They got married and they bought a condo. And they blew cash at cool, trendy places. But there was only one problem. Guess what? We were dead inside. Now, I can attest to that. I've been there. But you know what? You're not dead inside after you held a job for 3 freaking years at 22, okay? Hate to tell you, kids. Hate to tell you that just because you felt that way inside there for a little while doesn't mean you throw your entire career out a window and decide that you're going to become mobile and live in a van. Because regardless of what happens, what our future is going to hold for us, that's not going to work out too well for you. Maybe after 25 years of a career with a pension and a 401k, a house, 1.5 kids, and a dog, then maybe you say, screw your job, I want to work remotely now and drive around in my van. You could do that. Or maybe become a writer for a website and pump out articles that go viral all day long. Yeah, you could do that. But I don't know if I'd be suggesting you got big job, like budget analyst for the city of San Francisco, vice president of a PR firm. Screw it, I'm quitting my job, and I'm gonna live in a van. I mean, that's like screw Lucy. So check this out. In order to support themselves, because they were so dead inside, they had to support a work first, everything else second lifestyle. And hey, isn't that the American dream? That's the way it works, man. Work is always first. But after too many nights sitting at home, eating frozen pizza and watching Netflix, it occurred to them, what are we doing? We basically felt like we were wasting our youth, says Murray. Traveling and learning about new cultures and meeting new people, having meaningful experiences, that is what is important to us. So they saved up their money, they quit their jobs, and they took the plunge. And after traveling for a year in Latin America, they bought a red Kia Sedona minivan and converted it into a camper. And now they both work remotely. Murray is in communications as a freelancer, and Trechel is operating and promoting e-commerce websites while they travel around North America and focus on the things that make them happiest. While van dwelling, living out of vans, cars, and mobile homes as a lifestyle was popularized in the 60s, it is seeing a resurgence as part of the American dream among some millennials. Rachel Buljukowski, who has wandered around California living out of her Corolla and runs a blog for young people unburdened by permanent housing, have even called this the new American dream. Guys, I don't see anything wrong with traveling. I mean, I'm all about this, and I spent 30 years working my ass off in technology and realizing exactly what these kids realized. Like, what the hell am I doing? I am being paid to sell my life to working for this corporation. And it wasn't just an 8 to 5 job. It was an 8 to 8, an 8 to midnight job. Because I was on salary. But on the other hand, at 22 years old, you need to learn to be a part of the machine for a little while. I truly believe. To be responsible, to have a schedule, to be able to make it in the real world. Just because you hate your job doesn't mean we throw pickup sticks, sell it all, and get into a vehicle and just start being a vagabond. I don't know, guys. I don't know how I feel about this. I definitely know that this is not what I want to teach my child. Is part of her American dream of the future. If you can at least agree with me on that. This is not the future that I would say I would have any offspring of mine aspire for. But hey, it's great mobility and more free time. Here's my thing. And I've told lots of friends and family this, and actually family and friends who laughed at me for 15 years that I worked remotely in an executive level position, they now all have jobs where they work remote. One of them works full-time remote. Another one gets a couple days a week to work from home. And now they're telling me how great it is, Jewel. Oh, my God, I didn't know what I was missing. That's the key. You get a real job that pays real benefits. You're not freelancing. So you have some sort of insurance that will allow you to work remotely. And with technology today, it's not a big deal. Now, I don't want to get hung up on this because, I'm way behind now what I wanted to talk about. We're going to continue on. So talking about the future and our children, ran across a story out of a publication called Tech Radar yesterday titled Take a Step into the Classroom of Tomorrow. And let's take a look. So they're teaching our children the American dream is now to live out of a minivan. We found out that most Americans don't have an attention span greater than 8 seconds, that of a goldfish, because of our mobile devices. We listened to an interview. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he was the second interview on Corbett's show that we aired yesterday afternoon, who had talked, he was a professor of psychology, and he talked about many of the things that we've talked about on this show, how our mobile devices are this dangling carrot that are brainwashing America and getting them to follow along like the Pied Piper and mice, utilizing brain chemicals. And not just dopamine, but serotonin and oxytocin, giving you those love goggles. You love your enslaver, the mobile device that tells you what to do, that keeps you distracted from what's really going on, that takes you down that path to give up all of your privacy to the machine. Well, now let's take a look how this technology is getting into the education system as well. I'm really horrified wanting to be a teacher for a very long time. I never did it at a school level, a grade school or a high school level. I always said I would have to do it at a high school level because kids just make my brain short circuit too much. But I did it at a corporate level for quite a number of years. I had 1,700 people that I was responsible for across the United States, and all my new hires. I had then the people who worked there who had to get their monthly updates, and then all my new hires that came in did an 6 or 8 week class, depending on how big and how long we had. But let's get into this. This is what they're going to do to our kids of the future, and this isn't good. This is going to be Johnny, step right up and get your implant, and I think that's where we're going to end it today. When you cast your mind back to the days of school, you probably think of dusty textbooks, graffiti, and chewing gum. Lessons that were both boring, unengaging, and many, many chewed pens. Yeah, I had lots of them. And I remember Mr. Feinauer, who told us two things I learned. Caveat emptor, buyer beware, and there is no free lunch. And in my brackets, like a universal basic income. Not going to happen, people. You're not going to sit there all pretty and they're just going to give you money without any consequences. No, 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 no. Anyway, back to this. But the classroom of tomorrow will look very different. The latest advances in technology and innovation are paving the way for an educational space that's interactive, engaging, and fun. And, that's one of the things now that they're crying about. They're having so much trouble now with kids 10 years and up because these kids can't pay attention for more than 10 seconds to the teacher because they're boring. You know why the teacher's boring? Because these kids are in front of flashing light, dinging applications 24/7 when they're not at school, playing games, shoot 'em ups, getting that adrenaline going. All those good little Department of Defense applications to turn your Susie and Johnny into the soldiers of tomorrow. I told you the very first video game that we had skewed at where I used to work, and we were the back end to every and any online e-commerce back in those days. It was us. And it was skewed by the Department of Defense. That was 20 some odd years ago, right about the time to have little Johnny start learning to be a drone pilot. And it was a first-person flight simulator, as a matter of fact. The conventions of learning are changing. It is becoming normal for youngsters to use games like what? Oh, the brainwashing, addictive tool like Minecraft, yes. That Google is using to teach their AI, yes. But it's also games like Minecraft to develop skills such as teamworking and problem solving, and for teachers to turn artificial intelligence to get a better understanding of how their pupils are progressing in lessons. So let's turn on the robo-teacher. That's what it's going to be. In the future, we're not going to have real teachers. We're going to be scanning our pupils for learning disabilities. Artificial intelligence is going to be telling us what we should be teaching our children next. And interacting with them on a one-to-one basis, not a human touch, not a teacher assessing the needs of the child. But we're going to have silicon assessing the needs of the child. Virtual reality is also introducing new possibilities into the classroom. Yeah, get ready for your VR porn goggles. Oh, wait, Johnny. Not until you're 18. Gone are the days of imagining what an ancient Egyptian tomb might look like. Now you could just strap on a headset. No comment. And transport yourself there in a heartbeat. The potential for using VR to teach history. Remember, I told you guys, too, they had that one about they were filming Holocaust survivors to be able to do 3D holograms and let the kids ask questions and have it answer real time. It's pretty bizarro. The potential for using VR to teach history, geography, and other subjects is incredible when you think about it. And it is not the only tech that is going to shake things up. As mentioned, virtual reality is already starting to give an impact on education with headsets like the Oculus Rift, Samsung Gear VR, and the HTC Vive, helping to make learning more invasive. Yeah, it says immersive. More immersive and invasive and fun. Make sure you give them access to that optical nerve by putting something over your eyes so they can stare into your head, into that orbital frontal cortex, and watch you make decisions. Remember, we just learned about that they can now do that. Toronto-based tech startup Discover Labs is one of the many firms that want to bring new opportunities to schools and colleges through the power of VR. Now, remember, we talked about VR goggles and some of the new apps that I saw that would allow people like me, who were engineers in their former life, to be able to collaborate with other engineers across long distances, where we could talk and see the project that we are working on, touch and manipulate that project all in real time. And that would be very helpful. I worked with architects and engineers all over the place, and it was difficult over the phone to have 22 people all talking about a project that we're looking at spreadsheets for part numbers. So it would be amazing if we could have someone scan in a network diagram on top of a blueprint and be able to drag and drop and put all of our hardware and cable drops where they belong in real time. But I don't think the kids' brains need to be exposed to that at such where they're not learning the dexterity for drawing and the ability to use the creativity of their brains without it being fed to them. Because that's the problem. Data is being fed to us. It makes our brain flabby. When we are fed information without having to go through all the processes of logical deduction and solving a problem, because problems are always taken care of us for us. Where's that going to leave us in the future? When somebody does everything for you, like with a child, like puts away your clothes or, I don't know, makes your dinner every night, that kid's going to be 12 years old and not know how to put away their clothes or make their own dinner, if need be. You got to cut the apron strings. They are sucking us into the apron. Founded in January of 2015, Discover Labs is already creating VR training solutions for healthcare education programs at several hospitals. and universities in Canada, along with a tour guide app of King Tut's tomb for the Gear VR and the Steam project. Even in these early stages, the company has been noticing profound benefits when it comes to education. Oh my God! Based on the products it currently has in its portfolio, which include a VR training app for trainee doctors. Get rid of the cadavers. We won't need them anymore. Discover says that there has been an 80% increase in subject retention when compared with more traditional teaching methods, such as reading from a textbook. Yes, let's damn reading. Damn that reading. You know, I do have to say, I hated history when I was growing up because it was just so damn boring and dry. And then with the advent of CD-ROMs, and I think you guys all remember when those first came out, and I got my very first Encyclopedia Britannica on CDR, and I used to have one, you know, each volume, and I went through every volume. My mother would get the new one. But having complete full color and being able to read about it and make little movies go was pretty amazing, I have to say. It changed my ability to retain history. So I'm not going to diss it all, but I'm telling you guys, to have our kids be sucked into this VR machine is really going to bleed and blend this line between reality and fantasy that we've talked about so many times. And as that line bleeds, and as we have them able now to make famous people and presidents look like they're saying stuff and make them talk and move around and broadcast them so you don't know what's real and what's not, this is just taking us another notch down the future road to where we will never be sure as to what is reality and what is fantasy. And I think that is the point. And if you can actually believe it, we are plumb out of time. That went too fast. We're going to pick up there tomorrow. I don't know what that is and why that was on now. I don't know. We'll have to check it out. All right, guys, make sure you stick around. Ms. Lonnie Clark is live up next. You make sure you have an awesome Monday, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Everybody take care.